Hello, welcome everyone to today's IG Live Ask the Experts. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day so far. I'm very excited about our conversation with Topaz Adizes. Topaz is the founder of a company called The Skin Deep. And we are going to talk today about having better conversations, asking better questions so that we can have closer connections with the people around us. So I'm very excited about this. I'm going to ask Topaz to join the conversation. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Put your questions in the chat. Please let me know where you're from. And we're going to share the next 30 minutes together. Topaz!
Hey!
I'm so happy to have you. I'm sorry my power was out, but we're good now.
We're good now. Good to see you. Thank you,
Oh,
Robin, for having
so
us.
good to see you too. Where are you right now? Are you at home?
I'm in my office in Uruguay.
In
This
Uruguay.
is my little...
Oh
Yes.
my gosh. That's
Every
one.
my things haven't arrived yet, so I have an empty bookcase, but my plants are here, so that's good.
Well, wherever you're surrounded by, it looks beautiful. And
Thank
I'm
you.
just so happy that you're here with us today on the IG Live. Thank you, Topaz. Can you
My
please
pleasure.
tell our community about yourself and about the Skin Deep and about the end? We're going to talk about this awesome book that I read of yours called 12 Questions for Love. So I'm very excited to do that. But please just tell us about yourself.
Well, my team and I at the Skin Deep, we're an experience design studio. We're in our 11th year. Originally, we're based in Brooklyn, New York for many years, but now we're actually now all around the world, a remote team. And our focus, we're an experience design studio. And the question that we ask is, how's the emotional experience of being human shifting in this day and age with all the technology and all the things that are changing? And we're kind of now all experience this kind of crisis of loneliness, right? Crisis of connection or disconnection.
Yes.
And we've been fortunate for the last 11 years to hold this project called The And, which speaks about the space between, where we bring in all kinds of people and all kinds of relationships to have conversations. And they just like you and I right now, we split the screen, you see both faces at the same time, and they ask each other questions. We present the questions, we create the space, but they own the space. They then take it over and, explore the relationship through our questions. And that's been an incredible experience for the last 7, 11 years. And that's kind of what, yeah.
Well, you're helping transform relationships with the work you're doing.
Thank
So this is
you. Thank
why we're so connected because we are endeavoring to do the same thing, right? It's all about
you. Yeah,
building deeper, more nurturing connections with people around us. So I love it.
yeah, it's amazing.
So
It's funny on these live streams, are you able to read the comments
yes, I'm reading
as we're talking?
them.
Because I can't do both. I'm like trying to track everything. How do you do it?
So well, I'm practiced at this. How about that?
Right, okay,
Okay,
great.
so I want to be. We're going to dive into some questions from our community, but I wanted to hold up your book, Topaz, because I read it this week, and it's really fun. Is my boyfriend's coming over for lunch, and I said to him, "I'm good. We're going to sit down and eat lunch, and we're going to go through some of these questions together." So yay! How exciting!
You're gonna
So
have
your
a
book is
great
called
time.
yeah, your book is called 12 Questions for Love: A Guide to Intimate Conversations and Deeper Relationships.
Yeah.
So, on the podcast, we're going to talk about about this book, but give everybody that's on the live some synopsis about why you wrote this book and what it's about.
Sure. So after doing this for 10 years and over 1,200 conversations, this book is a distillation of everything we've learned of
Mm.
doing that. Where else do you get to see the intimate conversations of all kinds of relationships? You don't. Maybe you get to see them on film, but you don't really get to see, like, no one's going to really see the intimate conversation you're going to have with your boyfriend when he comes over for lunch. That's reserved for the both of you. In this space at the end, where our participants come and they trust us enough to actually have these courageous, vulnerable conversations, these cathartic conversations, that's a really honoring space to be a witness to, both as a viewer and then particularly for me, who's holding the space, my team and I who are holding the space and presenting the questions. And so the book is really a guide to how to have a cathartic conversation, how to have a conversation that really explores your relationship. And we don't learn that in school. We don't learn that in
No.
school. We really learn it from modeling in our family and maybe from our friends. And so
Right.
it has been an incredible journey for me to hold the space to the end, learn how does this work? Why does it work? And then distill that down into a practical guide for anyone who wants to read it so that you can harness the power of questions and create space so that you can explore and deepen your connection. And thereby the result is when you feel seen, you feel heard.
Yeah.
And I believe that at the core, like we say there's a crisis of connection, we all say we want to be connected. I think, and we say we use the term love a lot. I think it's the desire to be seen, to be
Right.
seen, to be fully seen. And that to be fully seen means, you know, you want to be fully seen. That's vulnerability because you're showing up and opening up. So how do you do that? How do you do that? And that's really what's in the book.
Yes. Somebody's asking the name of the book. I'm going to hold it up again. It's called 12
For love.
Questions for Love.
And you can buy it anywhere, Amazon or anywhere you get your
A
books.
guide
But
to
it's also,
intimate conversations and deeper relationships.
I'll
So
just,
let's talk
yeah,
about this. Sorry, I was going to say, Topaz, we've got all these people that are joining us live right now. Thank you everyone for being here.
yeah.
And we're all we are involved in different relationships in our lives. So this book is made for somebody that's in an intimate partnership. You can ask some of the questions of people that your friends, your
Well,
family in this book as well.
yeah, but intimate is not romantic. Intimate is
No,
could be your father, could be your brother. So that's what the
that's
book
right.
is. You know, it doesn't you can play this with your best friend. Intimacy is something about opening up and I believe being seen and seeing,
Yes.
right? So
So what is your invitation to people before you ask some of these deeper questions? Because there is something there is how you set things up in your studio, and also how you recommend people kind of set the stage for
yeah.
being ready to have these conversations. How
So
about that first?
what
Yeah.
we've learned what we've learned is there's two ingredients. One is creating the space, and secondly is well-constructed questions. So let's talk about creating the space. Bottom line, creating the space is just articulating the intention, which is different. Let's make a decision between agenda. Intention is where you begin. Agenda is where you end up. If you go into a conversation with an agenda, like I want to get to an apology, I want them to see this, I want them to understand that, you're already coming at it from your head. You're playing an emotional chess game, if you will. You want a certain result. And that's not the other person feels that. That's not an invitation for them to open up. If you come to the conversation with an intention, which is the beginning, I want to understand this, or I have curiosity about this, or I just want to play a game and explore a relationship, then you're coming to it and you're articulating it, which creates the space. So when your boyfriend comes over for lunch and you just say, "Hey, just read this book. There's 12 questions in it. Let's play it." That's you articulating your intention, and you just created the space. And
Love
that's
it.
important because much like we have certain rooms in our houses that we do certain things, we cook in the kitchen, we sleep in the bedroom. We don't sleep in the kitchen and we don't cook in the bedroom. There are certain spaces that we do certain things. We need those spaces in our relationships, right?
Oh, good.
Right. So, you know, if you because here's the line that everyone hears when your partner comes to you or somebody comes to you and says, "We need to talk.
Oh,
We got to talk."
that's like that right there is like,
Yeah.
I'm on my defense.
Now, but that just created a space. Like, okay, we're gonna have some type of issue that we got to deal with, and
Mm-hmm.
you're already mind pops out and starts
Mm-hmm.
protecting. So how do we create the space to just have an exploratory conversation? That's why road trips are great. Because in some sense they create the space. We're on a road trip, listen to podcast, there's nowhere to go, where you listen to music, but at some point you can say, hey, let's just ask each other random questions.
Yeah.
Let's or the card game that we have. Just hey, let's play this game. That creates a space. The intention is playing the space. And just I know I'm going on now, but just to land it, is that in a certain space where you have the intention, there are rules, and the rules give permission for certain things to happen. When you're playing a game and you pull out a random card or your book and you say, here's 12 questions. When the question comes up, why do you love me? The other person is not wondering why they love you. I mean, they are wondering why they love you. But if you came to them while they were washing the dishes, hey, why do you love me? The space is not created, and they're not wondering why you love them. They're wondering
Why are
why
you
is this person asking me this
asking?
question, right? Or on the other hand, if your boyfriend for lunch and before he comes over, he says, "Robin, I love you so much. My heart trembles with my love for you. You might not necessarily receive that immediately because you're wondering where's this coming from. But if we create the space, then you're not wondering where it's coming from. You ask the question, why do you love me? And he goes, let me tell you why I love you. Ba, 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 ba. You just create the space. And now it's given permission for him to give, and more importantly, possibly for you to receive. So
Okay,
that's
so
why
you said
it's really
there was
important
two,
about
so
creating
you said there
space.
was two things, Topaz. There's creating the space. Okay, first, so there's intention, you said.
Yeah.
Okay, sharing the attention, and then number two is creating the space.
Yeah. Well,
Is that right?
the creating the space is sharing the intention. So that's the one
Okay.
part. The second part is well-constructed questions.
Yes.
So well-constructed questions. Any question that begins with is, are, or do, I don't care what comes up after it. That's a binary answer. So binary question is going to give you a binary answer. So why do you love me? Is this the right relationship for us to be in? Are we behaving properly? Are we progressing in our love? All those questions, is, are, do, ends with a
Okay.
yes or no. So
Yeah.
how is that an invitation to explore your relationship?
Right. It's
Sometimes
not.
you sometimes you want to know an is or yes or no answer. Sometimes,
Yeah.
and that's about the space. Like sometimes you're in the space of a relationship where we're not here to explore. I need finality here. Are you committed to me? Right? Yes or no. Great. But sometimes you want to explore your relationship. You want to feel what's going on, and that's is not space for yes or no. That's the space of exploration. Where's the nuance? Where's the color? So asking is or do is a binary yes or no. Conversation ends. Instead, why? How? You know what? What are the things that make you love me? How is it that
Mm.
we're developing our relationship? So that's one aspect of creating. And then there's four other things that make a really quality question, and that's outlined in the book.
Yes. So the other thing you talk about in your book is how you had written this very intentionally with, the questions 1 through 12, and you recommend that people ask the questions in sequence,
Yeah.
not go right to question 12, which is why do you love me?
Right.
So so that
And
in
also,
itself is almost like setting the stage for. Tell us about that, like
so
the trajectory of asking the questions.
so we're talking about your boyfriend coming over for lunch today. Don't just ask him one or two questions. Ask him all 12 because it's a journey, right?
Yeah.
There's something about well constructed questions that's important. Also, the sequence can really help. So the first card you take could be why do you love me if you're playing the game, and you'll answer. But if we go on a journey, and in this case it's a 5-act journey, when we get to why do you love me, if the journey begins with the first 3 questions, as they are in the book, that explores our relationship and the uniqueness of our synergy that created certain experiences and things that we treasure together. Now we've built the trust, we've explored that, we've felt that. Now we start exploring the next 3 questions. How do we deal with conflict? What is our biggest challenge right now? What is it teaching us? Or what are you hesitant to ask me? Right? Or what is a sacrifice you feel I've made that I haven't acknowledged, and why do you think that is? So those are questions that deal with conflict,
Mm.
whether they're coming, present, or have been pushed aside and are kind of there in the corner, but growing, right, as a cancer. Then we get to the most vulnerable questions, 7 and 8. 7 is, what is the pain in me you wish you could heal, and why? 8 is, what's one experience you wish we never had, and why? So that's kind of the fun. Now that's the crux of the climax, the vulnerability, but it's been built on an architecture of this trust and how we've dealt with conflicts. So now we're in now after that 9 and 10, we start landing the plane. We acknowledge each other. We talk about the future. What are we most excited about? And then 11 and 12 are acknowledging the temporal nature of being alive and saying the things that we may never get the chance to say. If
Beautiful.
we never had, this is our last conversation, what is something you never want me to forget? And the last one, of course, is why do you love me? So if you
Yeah.
answer, what do you love me after that journey? It's going to be so much deeper. It's going to be different. It's not better. It's not right. It's not wrong. It's just different. But it's built on an architecture. It's a journey. And I think there's a lot of value there.
I think so too. I want to preface by saying this is a new relationship. So a lot of there's not a lot of history, or,
Right.
we're just getting to, we're getting to know each other and having a lot of fun doing that. So some of these things, it's just, we're
But
not right. So,
but
but
what
it's
could
going to
be,
be fun just to explore the questions.
sure. But there's a lot there in the beginning. And what's great is that if in 6 months you have the same 12 questions, what's going to be beautiful is that your conversation, though the question is the same, will be very different,
Yes.
right? Because of
So
the
what about,
understanding that.
I've got a question, Topaz, so you've got different card game decks and an app, right?
Yeah.
For asking beautiful, great, interesting questions to have, to really build on these deep conversations. So what about when you're dating someone?
Yeah.
We're no longer in the dating stage. We're now, we're committed to each other, but still very new. So what about when you are dating somebody and you're like, I would really like to, I want to be very curious and get to know somebody on a deeper level. Like, what are some questions for those people that are in our community that are looking for love and they're dating? And how do you open it up on a date to say, like, maybe it's just like, do you want to play this game?
Yeah.
And then how would you, like, what, just a few questions that we could throw out
Okay,
there.
a few questions. So one is just if you bring we have a dating edition, it's great because you show up and there's these questions, and then it's not like you're quizzing the person or testing them with these incredible questions, and it's random. So that creates a space. A great question I think that comes up, or one that I love, is what have you learned from your last relationship that you're looking to? What have you learned from your last relationship that you're looking to bring into your next one?
Mm-hmm.
Or if your ex was here, if your ex was here, what would they warn me about dating you?
Oh,
That's interesting. Or funny one is, what is your favorite memory from your worst relationship?
what is your favorite memory from your worst relationship?
Or how would you like, and there's other questions but what's interesting is that in this case, it's like the questions are projecting on they're illuminating the connection. So a lot of times you go on a date and you say, hey, what's your opinion about love? Okay. And you kind of get that. What could make the conversation more interesting is you say, what do you think? How do you think we see love similarly and differently? Right? What do you can be on a date. Wait, what scares you the most? Okay. And then you have 10 dates. You have this question. So, get what scares you the most? They will answer that question regardless of who's asking it, because what scares you? Well, snake scares me the most. But if you instead ask, what do you think scares us both? Then it's acknowledging the person who's asking, acknowledging the relationship. And that's different for every person who asks, right?
yes,
That's one aspect of a really quality question is making a connective question, acknowledging the person who's asking, the people who are in the conversation. So it's not what do you think about love, but how do you think we think about love similarly or different? Or in what ways do you think we see love differently? Or, not what are you looking for in a relationship? How do you think we may be looking, what do you think we're both looking for in a relationship?
what do you think we're
Right?
both looking for in a relationship? Yeah, I like that.
Just
So one of the questions that came through in our community, for you, Topaz, was, we talk about, like, it is a crisis of disconnection. And what do you think are the main reasons for this disconnection?
because you get good at what you practice. And what are we practicing? We're practicing social media. We're practicing voice notes. I remember my grandfather I was talking on the phone back in the day when it was a rotary phone. My grandfather flicked me on the back of the ear. I'm like, what's going on? He goes, what are you doing? I say, I'm talking to my friend on the phone. He's like, you don't use the phone to talk to your friend. You use the phone to make an appointment to meet them in the park. And that is where you talk to your friend, is in the
Oh
park.
my
And,
gosh.
and I'm just, we humans are so good at change that we forget that things are changing and we adapt, right? We're now so good with, like, I mean, I can't imagine how I could work without email, you know? What was life like before? We can't even remember. What was life before the cell phones? We can't even remember it. But I lived in it.
Yeah, me
We yeah,
too.
definitely lived in it. We are so getting used to different ways of communicating. And the one impetus for this can deep is how do we bring slightly more conscientiousness to how we relate so that makes a long distance change into the future. You make 1 millimeter change now, in 100 years, you're total and miles apart of where you would have been. The reason I think we have more disconnection is because we don't practice connection. And practicing like sending a voice note on WhatsApp, and the other person listens to the voice note and then sends it back. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm saying I don't think it necessarily brings a greater practice of connection because you're not practicing listening in real time. You're not watching the other person, right? Are you FaceTiming with someone so you see the face or not? Some people have a hard time visually understand, so then they do the call. But how conscientious are we in our moments of connection? How much are we listening, not just with our minds to give a response, but with our bodies, so that we're tapping into our feeling, our intuition, and we're speaking on that level. So ultimately, what we practice is what we good at. And in today's society, there's all this technology that enables these new things, but it's not necessarily giving us abilities to practice deeper connection.
Yes.
And that's really the impetus of the Skin Deep is how do we create experiences utilizing technology to bring more awareness to your connections? You know, I mean, technology right now is amazing. You and I are having a conversation from literally the northern part of the northern hemisphere and the southern part of the southern hemisphere in real time. You know, people are watching from God knows where. That's an amazing gift, and we're utilizing it to share information. That's a wonderful gift. But how are we conscientiously using technology and our presence and our being and our ability to create to have agency to create deeper connection?
Yes.
You know,
I love it. So
what do you
you
think?
talk, no, I fully agree with you. It's funny. I was just talking yesterday to my friend about what you just said, and what we were talking about is the fact that we were so much closer to each other when the phones were attached to the wall, right? Because we were way more in person with people. Like we
Yeah,
were kind of making jokes around, not jokes, but I mean, it's just the reality that you'd pick up the phone and you only have like, and maybe the line was busy, so you got to call back and like, oh gosh, darn, right? So then, okay, try again. And then you get a hold of your friend and like, okay, I'll meet you in the park in like 20 minutes. And then you bike ride there as a kid, and your parents can't get a hold of you till dinner time because you're just doing God knows what, right? And but you're spending time with the people because like we
yeah,
didn't use phones. We didn't really use phones to talk. Like not me
yeah.
anyways, because I had lots of my siblings, my parents, we all needed to use the phone. So get off the phone and then go see your friend, right?
And I think like
Yeah.
to anchor, I think that's a great question. I think to anchor everything is to take home value is for me is ultimately is the power of questions, and it shapes the answer. We spend so much time focusing on the answer, we're not actually really focusing on the question. And when you shape the question, you get all these different possibilities. So when we were asking is social media good or bad, to me that's a very simple it's a binary question, but it's a simple one. It's like what can we do about it? It's here. We can't change it. But maybe a better one is how do we utilize it so that we bring more consciousness to connection, right? Right now, are we in a crisis of disconnection? Yes, but then what can we do about it? You know, how do we change the questions we ask ourselves to give ourselves more empowering answers? And that relates to everything. Whether you're asking yourself, we're asking society, we're asking yourself in a relationship. Really pay attention to the question you ask yourself, and if you can shape it in a way that gives the answers give you agency, right? That to me
Answers give
is
you
a huge.
agency.
So like why are we more disconnected now than more than ever? Well, we can come up with a list of things, and that's great, and that's a good way to analyze it and see what it is. But we can shift that. So it's like, how can we create more connection in our world right now? How can I create more connection in the relationships around me? Then you'll get a bunch of answers that are giving you empowerment. Well, I could do this. I could make time. I could do that. So instead of us spending time complaining about this current state of affairs, if we shift the question, we give ourselves gives us delivery of answers that gives us agency to give us more empowerment. And I think that's like fundamentally what my offering is bring consciousness to the question, shift the question so that you're getting better answers.
I love that. Okay, in the book, this is a great example, Topaz, is you share a story about when you and your wife were expecting, I believe it was your second child, and you were like wanting to move. You're thinking,
Yeah.
where do we move? And
Yeah.
so you traveled all over and went to all these different places thinking, and you just couldn't come up with the answer after all of the journeying and all of the exploring. And you're like coming up with like dead end, like, what do we do? Right. And then you shifted the question.
Yeah.
And that was the other key to this, right? Can you explain how you actually shifted the question and what parameters you used? Because there was a timeline involved,
Totally.
right?
So there's three aspects to making a quality question for yourself: time frame, how you feel, and how it affects others, whoever the others can be. You can choose, right? So when we're stuck on a question, what job should I do next? You know, what should I do with my life? Where should we live? How do I solve this problem? Okay, let's just change it. Go, where can we live for the next 6 months, 3 years, 5 years, where my wife and I, we feel inspired and vital, where we feel physically healthy, where we can be challenged to explore our arts and our skills, such that we can support a community for our children, such that we can support the communities that we find important, or support causes that we find important, or change the neighborhood that we live in. Like, come up with 30 versions of that, where you just fill in the blanks and you have different. Circle the one that you want to answer, and then the answer becomes much clearer. Because when we say, where do we want to live? Well, my God, God knows how many chapters are in life. Where do I want to live now versus in 20 years versus in 40? It's a huge question to ask. Maybe it changes. Maybe you want to stay in the same place. But if you bring a time frame, where do I want to live for the next chapter of my life, where I am feeling inspired and supported and safe, such that I can contribute to the growth of my children and the experience that they have, such that I can support my family, my parents, as they get older and sick, right? Create 30 versions of that and circle the one that you want to answer, and answer that one. That's a great way to break, because we usually ask big questions that are really hard to answer. Should I
You're
stay in this
asking the wrong
relationship?
question. You're asking the wrong question.
Absolutely. Should I stay in this relationship? Should I continue dating this person? Okay, it's big. How about this? Don't ask that question. Instead, go, what can I do for the next 6 months where I will challenge myself emotionally with intimacy, such that I can be more present with everyone I'm connected to? Okay. Then answer that question, and that will tell you what to do in your current relationship, whether you should leave it or stay in it.
What about the job question,
Yeah.
Topaz? If somebody's
So the
not happy
job,
in their job, or like they're trying to figure out,
totally.
what am I going to
Yeah.
do for work? Like, I'm just,
Great. So what can I do in the next 6 months? What can I do in the next year? What can I do in the next 3 weeks? What can I do in the next 5 years, where I am challenged, where I'm learning, where I'm giving the most, where I get a sense that I'm creating the most impact, that I'm, you know, teaching others, where I'm learning a new trade, a skill, fill that in, and then so that I'm, supporting the passions of my family, giving them a sense of security, so that I'm building infrastructure for my future. Where can I learn the most so that I can build a family in the future, or that I can feel the happiest now, so that I can also inspire my children or my friends into what's possible. Create the question, answer it, and choose the best one that inspires you, and answer it. You're asking, is that helpful, or should we break it down even more?
I think you said the timeline is important, how you want
Sorry.
to feel,
Yeah. And how it affects
and
others.
how it affects others.
And the reason is because if it's just timeline and you, then it's not sustainable in terms of energy. When you make it about others too, so it's how I feel, but also how it affects others, then I'm offering values beyond myself, and that energy comes back, and then it makes it sustainable. Because for a long time, you could choose something that you love and you do it for yourself, but there's no reaction coming back, right? There's no energy coming back, so it's not sustaining. So every time you're putting something out, it doesn't come back, because you're not offering value to other people. We are a community. We are a community. We are a social animal, and it's how are you providing values to others that then gives you back energy, and that
Wow.
makes it sustainable. So that's why it's important to have all three. Time frame, because nothing lasts forever and things change. How it makes you feel, because that gives you energy. That affects you, but it also has to affect other people, because that's recycling of energy.
Yes. And I want to just share with everybody the result of when you changed the question in your book. You shared the story, but when you changed that question for yourself, you and your wife decided to stay where you were living, right?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
you rather than moving somewhere else, because you changed the question,
Yeah.
your answer came to you in the fact that this was the best place for you to stay for that 6 month period, or however long was when your children were little,
Exactly.
to support you and your family, and have the nurturing people around you, your community around you, as you're raising young kids.
Absolutely.
So
For me, where do we want to live? I said, we're here, and I don't want to live forever here. My wife then broke it down. I was like, we're here for this period of time. Ah, okay, now I can relax. We're here for now. Then when the next chapter arrives, we can go. Fortunate enough, we have Yeah, the ability to choose. I mean, that's a great luxury, right? But I think we all have the luxury to choose, not even luxury, the agency to choose our questions. And I just think that's where the key is, because oftentimes we stymie on answering questions that other people have given us. Society gives you, or just societal programming. What job should I do? Where should we live? Like, these are general questions that we get from society or from your parents or from your friends, social pressure and whatnot. But if you can create your own question and answer it, that's where the agency exists for us to shape our possibilities.
I love it, Topaz. But thank you for this. Thank you for sharing the 30 minutes with us and for all the insights. I mean, I'm glad this is recorded because there's so many good questions and ways that we can shape the conversations that we're going to be having because of the questions we're asking. It's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I
Thank you
hold
so
up your
much for
book
having me.
again so that people can take a snapshot and definitely download it and read it. I love it. And I'm gonna have fun at lunch in like 10
Great.
minutes with
Good luck. Let me know how it goes.
Okay, I will. Thank you everybody for joining.
Thank
Enjoy
you,
the
Ella.
rest of your day.
Thank you all.
Blessings. Bye-bye.
Bye.